Hello, good morning, everyone. Good to have you here. Paul Trani diving into getting started in Photoshop. As you can see, and you can also see by the title of this, it's going to be around creating a stylized portrait. So that is the idea. Thank you so much for joining me. Should be able to see me just fine and all that good stuff. Edward and Victoria and Kyle. Good to have you from Michigan here. I'm in beautiful Denver, Colorado, where, excuse me, we had snow on Friday, and it was probably like 70 degrees tomorrow, or yesterday, and it's going to be nice all week. So that's what's happening here. We're going to create this stylized portrait. I want to click through this. Joanna, welcome. Felicia as well. Good to see you. And Larry. So welcome, everyone. We're just going to kind of dive into this. Schedule might be a little bit different this week, just so you know, and we're going to take a look at it right now. As you can see, we have, of course, I'm starting right now, basically 10:30, and but tomorrow we're going to start at 9:30 is going to be the go time, and it's going to be a fun week filled with awesome designers doing cool stuff in Photoshop mostly. So we have 9:30 to 11:30. We have Mel, as you can see. And then we have the daily creative challenge as well from 11:30 to 12:30. It's actually right after this as well, from 11:30 to 12 for 30 minutes right after this stream. So stick around. That'd be fantastic. Hello, Brenda from Santa Ana. Good to have you here. Okay, so, and Alex Lazarus. So this is tomorrow. This is basically scheduled for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, our guests this week. But again, you have me for an hour, and then Voodoo Val is going to be kicking off the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge right after me. So that's the short of it. I'm waving. All right, let's get this portrait party started, shall we? Because I have a lot of things to show you and talk to you about. Axel, it's nice to see you as well. All right, I'm gonna switch over to my screen, as you can see here, and this was kind of the impetus for doing this, getting started in Photoshop, sort of like how to not only sort of create a portrait, clean up a photo of yourself, but also create a portrait, a stylized portrait, say, of yourself. Or you can enter this contest. So this is the idea, Justin. Just so you know, it is this link, so I can actually just post that to chat for you in case you want to enter this contest. Boom. Boom. There you are. All right, so that's the link that for this page that we're looking at. So basically, that's the whole idea. Nobody's exactly like you. And even if you try to copy something else, it's probably not going to come out the exact same way, right? You have your own personal style, and that's your goal, is to use this Adobe stock photo and use any Creative Cloud tool, quite frankly. I'm going to be using Photoshop today. And just do something, anything that you want with this to express yourself creatively. And then you just post to Twitter or Instagram. We're watching this hashtag right here, and what you can win, as you can see right down here, is a Wacom Cintiq display, of course, pen, and Creative Cloud for a year. So that is the deal. Check out the full rules here as well, just so you know. I just want to make sure that you know that it might not be available for all countries. I don't really know, and I don't know where you live, but I knew where some people are. Jose from Madagascar, Bilal from Pakistan. Oh, wow. This is good. What's up? Jose Gonzalez in the house. Good to see you here. So, let's just pick a portrait style. We will see what's out on Twitter really fast, see what people have done. And just so you know, I'm just kind of reviewing this challenge. I'm going to download this image. Guess what? I already have, and I already have it in Photoshop. But let's see what's out there. Guess what? I saw this morning. Congratulations, Felicia. You've made a really cool portrait style right in here. Very kind of like Warhol-esque. And I think it has something to do with her glasses. And of course, the bright colors, right? And again, you can see some of these. This one looks cool too. All right. Fantastic. So again, this is what we want to do, is create something in our own portrait style and create something awesome. How fun is that? So let's do that right now. We've been inspired. We kind of seen what's out there. This looks awesome. This is done in Illustrator actually, and then texture painted in Photoshop. So we can go through both of those if we want to. But here it is. Here's a version that I did as well, just to kind of give you an idea. But what you're going to want to do is just open up this particular photo, and you can do whatever you want with it. So let's dive into this. Meritus, Oliver's from Meritus. Good to have you here. All right, so Felicia, good job. This is a great photo. First of all, can I talk about something? I want to kind of start with, you know, not necessarily with such a perfect photo, but what if you have even a selfie and you want to kind of clean it up a little bit? And that's what I want to start with, since this is all about getting started. Okay. You know, often, I mean, this is a gorgeous image, so we could play with this all we want. We can add some different photo filters, blend modes, all sorts of things, right? Like I'm doing right now. You can see me do that. But what if we have a photo that we need to clean up? So I'm going to actually just do something that's kind of embarrassing and maybe just like switch over and show you like this. I literally took this yesterday, right? It's bad, you know, it's not terrible, but you can see I got a scrape on my head from, like, I was putting up some furniture and I hit my head on this like window. So like, how do we take this, you know, a photo, say, of yourself and clean it up, right? And that's what I want to do right now. Starting with really this image. What would you do to clean this up? Well, we can do it a number of ways. A lot of times people will duplicate the layer, right? You can duplicate this layer by taking this layer right here, and we can drag it down to this new layer icon and duplicate it that way. Okay, and that's how we would sometimes do things, but we could also just make a new layer as well, a blank layer, because what a lot of people do is they always keep kind of like a backup of that layer right back here, right? So it's kind of up to you on how you want to work, but basically I'm going to be just kind of stamping out some of these issues, like this scar, right? This scrape. Anytime you have so the general rule for cleaning up any portrait or any photo is, if it's going to be gone in 2 weeks, then you just want to get rid of it now. So we can get rid of anything that will not be there in 2 weeks. So that's what I'll do. You're too kind. You're seriously too kind. I think I look beat up. Nonetheless, what do? We use these tools right over here. Boom, right in here. We have a lot of these healing tools, if you will. And then we also have the clone stamp tool, right? So clone stamp, you're probably going to jump up here to these healing, content-aware healing tools, right? The easiest one is just to go with the first one, spot healing brush, right? We'll go right over here, like this little blemish right here, right? We could use the brackets, open brackets, closing brackets, make it larger and smaller, and we can see those numbers change right up there. I can click right there, boom, and that, of course, goes away. This little mark right there in the center, let's get rid of that, boom, cleaning that up, right? So I can go through kind of cleaning up all of this. I want to get a little bit more advanced, because what if I want to kind of control what I want, the pixels that I want to sample, right? Well, I can use the healing brush tool. So going from spot, yes, Victoria, you always make a backup. I always make a backup too, okay? So healing brush tool, boom. Look, I get this healing brush. Look, it's already sampling from an area, which is fascinating, right? Look, it's sampling from an area. I'm going to go down right over here, and if I hold down the Alt key and click, I could sample from, say, just beneath that scrape. And those are the pixels that I just picked up and I'm ready to use. Okay, same rules still apply. Increase, decrease by using the brackets. Let's go right in here, and we just do a click and drag and get rid of that as well. So I feel like when there's, when you want more control, you're probably going to use the healing brush tool. Okay. Ooh, yeah, Alt right click. Thank you. So Alt click. We did this last week. So thank you so much, Victoria. You can also use the Alt and right click, you're saying, to adjust the brush size as well. It's not quite the same on a Mac. I think it's different, but I went through that process before. You could actually save your sample areas. Like, let me go into clone source. You can have a, healing brush tool selected. You can have an area sampled, and you can actually let's do this. Just since, Victoria, you sound like you're pretty smart. You probably know what you're doing, right? Let me make this brush definitely like smaller. But if I sample with this stamp tool, look, I can actually save the sources using the clone source panel. I haven't needed to do this, but if you ever have, I'm kind of curious what you've used it for, right? So again, okay, that's what we've done. We're doing simple cleanup. Again, this is all getting started. We'll come down in here, just kind of get a closer look. I'm not worried about any of this texture. Maybe you want to make it look like, you got a little bit more sleep than you actually did. Well, we can do that as well. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to add a new layer, right? So I kind of have this layer I was working on. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to use the same tool just to show you right in here, healing brush. Right up at the top, we have this drop down. A lot of times it is set to current layer, but you can actually just have it sample all layers. Boom, boom. And that way you can work on this separate layer to kind of clean up what you need to clean up. So I can come in here, sample right down here, come up, and let's adjust this brush. Decrease the hardness, make it a little softer, right? Sample, click, and I'm doing this to show you right over here, sure enough, it's adding it to this layer. So this is my sort of like under eyes, like that, okay? Don't worry, this is unrealistic to remove this completely, because the reason I put it on a second layer like this is I could now just kind of play with the opacity. Right, so I don't have to commit to the opacity right away, but I can make it look like I got a little bit more sleep per usual. Yeah, what's sleep? What is this sleep stuff? Yes, let's do 8 hours of sleep. There we go, good call. And good to have you here, fantastic. All right, let's kind of move on. I got a little bit more sleep. So this is what you'd have. You'd start to clean this up, and maybe this is cleaned up version, right? I can do a couple things like that. I probably want to clean this up maybe a little bit more if I notice any other little like weird spots. I'm not really going to sweat it now. I think that's not bad. But what often happens is the eyes need to be brightened. Ooh, good job. Victoria, you use the patch tool. I kind of want to show the patch tool as well. Let me show you the power of the patch tool, and thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's a great idea. Because this might be a good case for the patch tool. Because what do we want to do? We want to patch maybe this area with this area beneath it. So what I can do is I can go over here, grab the patch tool, select. This is a case where I can just select exact pixels. That's what's happening. Selecting this area. Now I can go ahead and patch it with this. Oops, I'm going to be on that. I can patch it as I drag it down. I could patch it with the area underneath it. Okay, so the patch tool might work out better if you need that exactness of a selection, right? So that's the whole idea. Use the patch tool if you want to. Yeah. Sometimes I've gotten this little like kind of like fuzziness because it's trying to blend it in with the pixels next to it. So that does happen, just FYI. But let's undo that. Let's turn that back on. Let's get back down to work. Tim, good to have you here. Anita, good to have you here. Content aware. These are actually all content aware tools, Anita. Everything right in here. These are all content-aware tools. Red eye one isn't, but these are content-aware tools. This content-aware move is going to do the obvious, move it, and then patch up the area that was once moved. That's kind of the idea, okay? And you can do the same thing. Again, if you want to use the selection tool on that note, let's just go... Maybe we have this spot right here, for instance. I want to use the selection tool right here, and then like you mentioned, go down into Content Aware Fill. And what's happening now, don't really need it in this case, but this is a new menu. This gives me the preview, and this gives me sort of like the entire area that's being selected from it. So I can come in and I can remove, say, hey, you know what? Don't use that area to sample from if it's a larger content aware area. And other things you can do, like right down here, we can rotate it as well. So there's rotation capabilities as well. Again, not a huge deal for me. I'd say that's good. Let's kind of move on. Again, this is getting started and I don't want to scare anybody. From there, let's kind of work on this some more. I have this kind of cleaned up right here. Let's select all of these. Let's do a couple things. I'm going to select all 3 of these and I'm going to convert it to a smart object. And now we have 8 hours of sleep, Paul, for instance. All right. Keita Jones in the house. What does content aware mean? Yeah. So content aware, it's basically aware of the pixels around the object that you have selected usually. So it's more aware of the pixels rather than just indiscriminately filling it with a color, right? Oh, thank you. I love these questions. Another question, Joy Frasier says, hey, what's a smart object? Ah, I'm so glad you're here. So good. Smart objects are awesome is what they are. Okay. Let me just undo this. But smart objects are basically, it's like making a PSD within a PSD. Okay. A lot of times how it's explained is you'll have a layer, and if I scale it down, it's gonna get rid of all those pixels. So I'll scale this down really small over here, right? And now we've gotten rid of all those pixels, right? So if I try to scale it back up, it's gonna be like very pixelated. Look at how blurry it is, right? So it's destructive when I scale things up and down. So if you're ever scaling things, you want to typically convert it to a smart object. So when I convert it to a smart object, I'm like, you know, I am a PSD, basically, right? So I'm going to protect all the pixels. I scale this down, zoop, like it was before. Let's scale it back up, zoop. Guess what? All the pixels are there, and it's all clean. Like I said, it's a PSD. Let's double click on it. Oh, guess what? Here it is. Technically, it's a PSB, as in big, but it's just basically a PSD inside of there. So we want to protect these pixels, like in this case, and that's why I did it. I'm thinking, okay, all these cleaned up layers, all this stuff, I want to turn that into a smart object. So I can right-click, convert to smart object. You use it as a single element. Here's my 8 hours of sleep, Paul, now. Okay, so now if I decide I want to do anything with it, like I was thinking if I did potentially let's do a radial blur. Let's just try, oh no, I don't want to do that. Hold on. Blur gallery, here we are. Let's do a iris blur, okay? So I'm basically picking a filter, right? I'll apply it right here, and what it's going to do is it's going to blur out. I want to do a shallow depth of field for this portrait potentially, so let's kind of shrink this in, focus this like right on the nose, bring this down, have the fall off be even sharper, you know, and kind of just make it like like I have a, nice, 50 millimeter lens. Okay, so since I've done that, I kind of like that look, just kind of focusing right on the nose, clicking OK. Since this is a smart object, it's going to protect all those pixels. Keita Jones in the house. Joy Frasier, making a smart object versus keeping everything in folders. It's kind of like all based on how you want to work and kind of what you're working on. Okay? Because for me, I just want one layer, because then I can apply the, any of the effects that I want to, and it'll just be applied to that like one layer. But it just depends on what you're doing, whatever works for you. I do want, this entire photo to be treated as one single object, and that's why I made it a smart object. So there's the blur gallery. You can see it right there. That's already looking better, and I can turn that on and off, right? That's just to show the idea. But what I'm realizing in here, Miranda, you ready for this? I'll get rid of this blur gallery, because what I actually want to do is I'm going to go up to a filter right up here, and this time I'm going to go down to, boom, liquify, right? Because what I'm noticing is like this one eye is a little smaller than this eye. So I'm going to go to liquify. It's going to recognize, wait for it. It's going to recognize my face. Face aware liquify. Did it? It better have. Oh, I just hid Photoshop. Boop. All right. Here we are. So liquify will recognize the face. I'm going to push around some of these pixels. You can see what happens. Okay. It's showing me the backdrop, which is the backup pixels. Let's go right in here. And let me just kind of work on this eye size. I actually don't know why I'm not getting the preview for the eyes, which is interesting. Oh, here we go. Boom, face tool. Okay, so selected this tool down here. So I could smudge, move pixels around all I want. Again, liquify, go down to the face tool right here, and you can see we now have these controls right around the eye. And now I can take that and I can make that just a little larger, as you can see. So that's what liquify does. Rather than me pushing around the pixels, you can see it actually recognizes the face, the eyes. It's all pretty amazing, isn't it? Is that not cool? So anyways, we can make that a little larger or less large, whatever we want to do. I'm just kind of making them a touch larger, just a little more even. Click OK. And there is the liquify filter on that smart layer. Okay, so that's really cool. I could do that with the smile, by the way. Since this is non-destructive, I still have those pixels in there. I could still double click on that. I can still go into the face, right? Gives me the face shape. Maybe maybe this is a ridiculous smile, right? I can adjust the smile as well, right? Little tweaks that I'm doing. As you can see, it recognizes the face. So this is a good way if you really want to mess with somebody. Even as I widen the face, do you notice how the face features stay in place, but the width of the face changes? Yeah, it's all fake. It's all fake. All right. And again, we have the ability to push things around all day long as well, right? So we can do this if we want to. It's getting weird, right? But just to show you the power of this flexibility of Photoshop, there you have it. Right, there you are. Done. Perfect. Cancel. All right, back in here. A lot of times what you want to do is brighten up the eyes. So do some more things. Ooh. So Joy Frasier, you want to paint a picture well enough that the face tool would recognize it. That's a great call. It usually will. It'll recognize a lot of, depending on what you're, so cool. There we are. Okay, so let's kind of go on. I'm going to go on from there. I want to brighten up the eyes. This is something you're going to want to do as well. So I'll just jump in here. I'm going to keep this simple. Okay, so I'm going to pull out this layers panel. We have these nice protected pixels. And I can add these different adjustment layers. Okay, so right in here, I've added a new layer. I'm going to go right over here to this circle with with a line through it. And I can add sort of gradients, brightness, all sorts of things right in here. It's really powerful, and this is what you want to do. So right in here, I'm going to just keep this simple. I'm going to go with brightness and contrast, right? When I select that, it's going to add it right here. It says brightness, contrast. Let's move that off to the side. Fundamentals of Photoshop. And we are doing well. All right. There it is. Brightness, contrast layer. Guess what? We have above it the brightness. Zoop. We can make the whole image brighter. Zoop, like that. We can give it more contrast if we want to. But I didn't want to do that for the whole image. I just wanted to do that for the eyes, right? So what do we do for the eyes? Well, we need to paint with black on this layer right here, everywhere we want to remove that brightness. Okay? So right over here, grabbing the paintbrush and make sure that layer is selected. Crank up the flow. And there we go. So let's just increase that. So now I'm actually painting like on that layer, right? You can see what's happening. I'm painting with black, right? I actually want to fill the whole thing with black. Well, we can do that as well. Select everything, you know, fill, black, foreground color, right? Now I'm going to do the opposite, right? Rather than painting with black, I want to paint with white. So right in here, for the eyes, making that larger. Sam Peterson in the house. Sam Peterson, really talented artist. Man, good to see ya. Good to see you. So right in here, we'll switch this to white. So I'm going to be painting with white, right? And I'll usually take down the flow, right? So I don't want this to be too strong with it. At 100%, it's going to be very strong. Again, I'm painting with these like with white on that layer mask, right? But I don't want to do that. I want to use my brush and take the flow down, right? And there's a number of ways we could do this. I get it, right? But now I'll just like go in here and you can see I'm just painting with that brighter part, just brightening up the eyes a little bit, just like that. You get it, right? Making the eyes a little brighter, okay? That's one way of doing things. And again, the whole idea is to show you how to use Photoshop, right? There's a number of ways to do this, right? A number of things that I still need to work on because it's really bringing out the red in my eyes. So I need to desaturate that as well, okay? And that's something I would probably want to do. Right, the eyes are a little... They're a little red. So, Keita Jones, great question. What's the difference between flow and opacity? I will show you right now, right up here. Great question. Let's move this over. Zoop. Okay, so top one. First off, let's start with, so basically flow builds up to 100%. So if I have this down to say 10, it would take 10 strokes to get this up to 100%, you know, opaque, right? So you build up using flow. Opacity is always going to be at 10% regardless of how much you paint, So opacity right here, let's actually put it on this side. Opacity's doing 10%. As I press down, it's only doing 10%. So that's the difference. Great question. And I think it can be confusing. So that's why I'm glad you asked that. All right, let's move on. Let's take care of this. Let's fill this back with black. Let's make this stylized. I have... All right. I need to get this party started, right? Just some more touch-up things, right? I could add more to this rather than just brightness and contrast, right? I can add a number of things. I'd probably want to add something right in here. I want to add hue and saturation, right? Watch this, hue and saturation. I want to desaturate the redness in my eyes. Okay, so right over here. Here's hue and saturation. Watch, I take this down entirely. It's going to make everything black and white, right? Or much brighter. But what if I just want to take down make it desaturated right there? There's, again, a couple different ways I could do this. The easiest way, quite frankly, is I can come in here and I can make a clipping mask. You ready for this? You ready for this? I want the hue and saturation only to affect this layer. Well, guess what? I can right-click and I can create a clipping mask. Boom. So now it's only going to affect the layer beneath it. Okay, and see, that takes the red out of my eyes. Just like that, okay? It also removes the color. That's a whole other situation. I'm not going to get too carried away with this right now. But I already have gray eyes, so... Anyways, that's what I'm doing. More common way of showing off clipping masks. I like doing this. Let's do... okay, we'll just do my name, sure. Let's just do this. Wait for it. This is another way to show off clipping masks. Here's your name, right? So this is your name. This it's not about me. Let's take this photo, for instance. I have this face right here. I want to put it inside of that text, sorry. Right click, create clipping mask. Or as you know, I can hold down the Alt key and roll over the line between, and pop, it puts that right in those letters like that. Okay, so this is what a clipping mask does. So if for some reason I need to change it right in here, you know, your name or Ryan, my family calls me Ryan, I can change that independently. Right, Nuno, you got it, Nuno, right? Nuno, N-U-N-O. Just like that. Let's get the right image. Wait for it. The cleaned up image. There you go. This is the fundamentals of Photoshop, right? This is all about getting started in Photoshop. Cleaning up an image. This is the most popular thing that you typically need to do. Why people use Photoshop is to clean up photos, right? So again, right here, the start of the photo. After using a lot of the content-aware tools, we could see we've cleaned up my face and given myself 8 hours sleep. From there, we've brightened up the eyes, removed the redness, okay? And now we have something more along the lines of, you know, a portrait or a picture that we'd want to work on, right? Another thing I would do is maybe crop this, right? Crop it square, because we know most profile pics, things like that, are probably going to start with a square image. As I crop this, again, just covering all the fundamentals right up here, I never delete the pixels outside of the, I typically don't delete the pixels outside of the crop, okay? So if you're unsure if you need pixels out there, make sure you don't have this pressed. But since I'm just removing gray, I'm going to press that and it's going to delete those pixels, right? But yeah, there we have it. We can save that, call that done. Now we can get into the stylized portion, right? Let's do it. I do have concentration? Serious. It's like I'm working today. I'm trying to make things happen. A couple other things I would do with here, again, just kind of showing off some other things there. I do a couple more things. We could either go, if we want to make this maybe just sort of beginner sort of stylization of this photo, is playing with some of the different adjustment layers right in here, right? So we can have something, give it more saturation. We could tint it a color as well, right? So I can come in here, Hue and Saturation, adding another one right in here, and then sure enough, changing it accordingly, right? So I can say, hey, you know what? Give myself more contrast. Maybe not that much. Maybe I want to colorize myself, right? And this is typically where people will start. They're like, oh, I want to change the color. Oh, I want to colorize the whole photo. I'll hit colorize right there. I get it. There's different ways of doing this, but now we have sort of a colorized photo, all right? Pretty straightforward there, okay? We could tint this a color. We can take this to the next level. You ready for this? Yes. Alexandra, the crop is new. You keep the deleted pixels or the cropped pixels by not checking that box. Let's do a couple other things that we could do in here. We want to make this black and white. You're going to get the obvious things. Since this is a photo, since I know I have a lot of warm tones in there, I want to work on sort of the reds, okay? So I'd typically come in here and brighten up the reds, right? Just kind of makes my face in this case pop more and tends to work, right? So here's another option, your black and white photo. And again, you get all of these additional colors. You ready for this, Tim? Tim knows about this. Ooh, yes, we'll get into gradient maps. For sure. That's what I'm leaning up to, definitely. But here's something for Tim, because I know Tim's a pro, and Victoria, you're a pro as well. What if we want to have even more control over these colors? Maybe we want to go beyond hue and saturation. Well, what we can do, I'm actually gonna do something a little crazy. I'm putting everything. This is 8 hours sleep. 8 hours sleep, Paul. There we are. Okay, so what I want to actually do now is I'm going to go to filter and I'm going to go to camera raw filter. Right? Camera raw filter. Wait for it. Here we are. We could make this a black and white photo. And I can actually control more colors using the camera raw filter, because here I have reds, blues, magentas, aquas, oranges. Orange was not in there before, but I actually have more control over the color if you use camera raw, just so you know. So that's what I wanted to point out. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are just joining me now, Mohammed, welcome. Cheers to you, my friend. We are making a stylized portrait. I'm going to take this to the next level because right now all I did is just do this black and white version. But kind of in honor of this contest, pick a portrait style challenge. We could use this Adobe stock photo and then you stylize it, right? And you can see what people did right in here. So I'm kind of doing that. But since this is getting started, I wanted to show you how to clean up a photo. And again, here's where it started, here's where it ended up, and nothing is real. All right, Anita, there is so much to learn, so many cool things. Tim mentioned something else, is the gradient map. Love gradient map. So what if you want to do something more than just go from like a black and white or tint it a color? What if I want to like use a couple different colors right in here? We'll go to gradient map, okay? Gradient map, you can tell already, it's crazy, right? And the properties for this off to the side, you can see it's mapping or making all the black pixels white and the white pixels black. That's what it does. Well, let's flip that. Boom. And here's your black and white. All right. We can go into sort of a duotone by selecting, this one from the black to the orange. And I think things get really interesting right in here when The darker colors get to be a little bit of like blue, and the lighter colors are a little bit of like orange. And there we have, again, as you can see, a gradient map version, right? So we're starting to stylize this portrait, okay? So enough of this. I'm going to do one more thing. Since I'm just kind of wrapping up all of these different adjustment layers, I'll do one more thing right in here, and then I want to get into some other options. But I'm going to go in here and I'm going to show you... let's do color lookup. Geez, is there a time when I don't do color lookup? Color lookup, these lookup tables. These are my properties. These color lookups are like combining a bunch of adjustment layers into one setting. And that one setting is called, say, 2-strip. Boom, right? Or 3-strip. Boom, right? Bleach bypass is really going to wash out anything. Let's go to crisp warm, right? So it gives you these different looks, kind of what I consider to be a, kind of like an Instagram filter, right? Drop out the blues. There wasn't a lot of blue in there, but there was a little bit. But I just encourage you to kind of play with all of these, especially if you're kind of unsure what to do. You know, even that alone looks like it gives it more life. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Gradient maps let you map or go from just, instead of being a black and white or a photo tinted all one color, it's going to do a gradient from one color to another color, right? When we're talking about stylizing, you could see how crazy it gets, right? Adding or looking at any one of these. You want to go beyond that, you can make your own gradients as well, right? These are just the ones that I currently have in here. All right. So this is fun. I think as you kind of look at advertisements and things, you'll start to recognize this look out there, kind of like this. So many different options. Okay, let's move on. I like that one. Oh, so many different options for stylizing this. I'm going to get out of this because I just needed a face to clean up. Let's go to the official one that we have here, and we can have some fun with it as well, right? So again, same thing. We can do some crazy stuff with this. Oops, so sorry. I'm just trying to, I don't know why I'm launching Discord. Shame on me. Trying to click right down here in the corner. All right. But right in here, I can do a couple different things. I'm actually going to add a gradient right here, and I'll add a gradient going like that, okay? So here's my gradient fill, and I'm going to do it at an angle from this upper left. The blue is the down lower right, okay? Now, notice how I've added that layer, okay? And now I want to show you, of course, blend modes. So right over here, I'm going to show you the blend modes are going to determine how this upper layer interacts with that layer beneath it, or all layers beneath it. As I roll over these, I can see we go to darken, right? Multiply, color burn. These are all the dark tones. Then we get into the light tones, right? You could see how this changes and how good this looks. Screen. Let me know if you have a favorite. Kita, I don't know if, or Victoria, if you use a favorite blend mode or your go-to. I end up using overlay and soft light a lot, right? And you can kind of see those two. Soft light's a little softer than overlay, but you can see how it just gives it that pop. I also really like lighten in this case. Boom. Here's one version that we can maybe play with, right? Okay, let's do some more things. We can do a color splash. That's cool. Since we're working with this actual image, what if we actually want to select her and cut out the background, right? Desiree, let me know your blend. Like, do you have a favorite blend mode? I don't know. Tell me. Can you use the Adobe stock asset once you download it to your computer? Yeah, you can. I don't see why not. Yeah. The whole idea is to use this particular photo, by the way. But chances are you're probably going to want to cut her out. You're going to want to do some different things. It's really easy saying, hey, you know what? Let's posterize this. But let's posterize it, right? That's super easy, right? Make it, 2 levels, right? That's a look we can go with. But chances are we're going to have to start to select the subject and extract her from the background. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm not going to use any of these selection tools over here. We're going to see what happens if I go to select and I just want to select the subject. So we'll try that. I haven't done it with this photo yet, so we're going to see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Screen for lens flare. Good, Valder. Yes. So when you add a lens flare, you set it to screen, and you use multiply for shadows. Cool. Check this out. I didn't even have to use any of the selection tools I've used. Sure enough, select subject is the easiest thing for me to do, and you can see it's selected her, right? Now, I can come right over here in my layers panel. Again, this is the fundamentals of Photoshop. If you understand all of this, this is huge. Like, this is most of Photoshop is what I'm telling you right now, which is awesome. Right in here. I've talked about layer masks before, but now instead of erasing or deleting those pixels, I want to just add a layer mask. Boop, right there. Boom. You can see, of course, adds that layer mask and cuts her out, right? So now we can have sort of that fun background or whatever we want. Try to move this back in here. Wait for it, wait for it. Right, we can have this as a background now or something like that, okay? We're just getting started, right? I can still add that right there. We get it, okay? I need to clean this up. So with that layer selected, right, that layer mask, I can play with some of these controls, but really what I want to do is I want to go into select and mask. That's really going to give me the ability to select all of her hair. Boom, select and mask, going in here, and now we can work on this hair, right? I can select the second tool as your refine edge tool, increase the brush size if you will, and I'm going to click and drag over that. Thank you so much for posting that, Melanie. Let me see if I can paste in the link as well. Maybe, maybe not. Ugh, okay. So that's what I'm doing right now is I'm going to come in here, and this is a really large photo. So bear with me. It's actually going to do its best to select those individual hairs. See what it's doing right there? It's trying to remove that background. And keep in mind that background was not even like white, right? So look at this. I accidentally like dragged over this piece right here. Well, I can come in and grab the brush, make it larger. By the way, I learned this a couple weeks ago. You ready for this? Melanie, do you know about this? So a second ago, so I have my brush here, right? You can see my visual brush. Sometimes you won't be able to see it. Like you'll just get this crosshair. I learned this from Jesus Ramirez a couple weeks ago. It's the caps lock. So if you ever don't see your brush size, make sure caps lock is off, and then you can actually see your brush size and do your work the way you need to, right? Okay, making this quick and dirty. There's my brush right in here. Accidentally kind of dragged this over her face. And you get the idea. So if you are just joining me, we do these every Monday, sort of like getting your week started and jump-starting your design career using Adobe tools. And I just thank you for hanging out. This is such a large photo, I should make it smaller so everything would go faster. Okay, good. Joy Frasier says it helps when you're using tiny brushes and working on those fine details to select caps lock into it. Yes, Rocky Montez Carr in the house, buddy. How you doing? We need to chat. I haven't spoken to you in a bit. Probably just back from. I know you dropped into Summit for a bit, Adobe Summit last week. I don't know if you got to see the killers, but basically, largely Adobe's marketing side of the business has a conference called Adobe Summit every year. And Rocky got to go. It was in Vegas. So anyway. And Rocky's an amazing Photoshop guru. So if I don't mention something, he's going to be like, Paul, do it this way. Again, just showing you an easy way to go through and select hair for this portrait style. Clicking OK. That's not bad, right? And then we have this gradient over the top. Guess what? We can clip that. This is what I would do. Clipping mask. Boom, like that. Now it's just affecting her, and I can play with some other, maybe make the gradient come from the other side, right? You kind of see what's happening here, right? Already a little better, stylized a little better, and I'm gonna just change this image size to make everything go a little faster for us. All right, let me go ahead and make sure everybody knows about this contest just for fun. Oh, okay. There you go. Okay, there we have it. Okay, so much better. I'll just save this portrait to desktop, done. Here's kind of this version that I would work on. A couple other things that I might consider doing with this image. And again, I'm just exploring different looks. I definitely need to clean up that hair. It's really bothering me, actually. Just give me a second. Just clean that up a little. All right, you get the idea. All right, it's definitely sticking out over there. I will change this one more time. Try to hide that. There we go. That might be a little better. All right, done. One portrait's done. Let's move on. When does the contest end? It should be, they usually run for about 3 weeks. April 9th. So yeah, you have 9 days. I think we just started it last week, just so you know. Okay, so this looks good. Let's move on to something else, right? Because I like this particular photo. I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to posterize this look. Wait for it. Layer. I want to add some more contrast, so I'm just kind of thinking through this. Oh, geez, so sorry. Let's go into posterize. I'm going to posterize this down to maybe like 2 levels. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the color like that. That looks pretty good. I want to start manipulating these pixels some and maybe start selecting some from it as well. Right in here. Again, just going to play with this a little bit using my selection tools. Quick selection. Yeah, sweet. Okay, so this one's pretty cool as well, right? This was super easy to do, right? What did I do? I added posterize and I added black and white, okay? Now, sure, it's all black and white. I'm considering actually doing something else with potentially the sunglasses, right? Sunglasses will be something fun to work with. I'm going to use the quick selection tool, right? Quick selection tool is awesome, right? I could also use the magic wand, but again, I just want to select this single surface. I click once, it selects it. Hold down the shift key, click again. And yeah, maybe I want to use this selection. With those two items selected, we will add another layer mask, and now we have that color in there, right? Let's add maybe this gradient fill, change it to overlay, and now we have something like that, okay? So again, just playing with different looks, you can see what it does. Obviously, I don't know, maybe you like it, maybe you don't. All right, I'm going to wrap up now. I probably produced a number of different pictures. I did this one. This was done with a Photoshop action. So just follow me on Twitter, at Paul Trani on Twitter. And definitely, I just posted it a little bit ago. But that's just another example. There's this example, and then there's the example of me that I did earlier. But I'm going to let you go and remind you of the schedule as I kind of wrap things up, just so you know. Let me know if you have questions. Alexander, good to see you. Good to see you, Kathleen. Anita, Victoria. Stick around, by the way. We have a Photoshop challenge coming up. As you can see, I'm just going to show you this schedule. We have basically the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge starting in about 4 minutes. So that's pretty fantastic. I'm going to leave you with this schedule, and that is about it. Join us tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. And thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Thanks so much, everyone.